Hello and welcome to another video review from AV Forums. I'm Phil Hinton and I've been the editor since 2003. I'm also a fully trained and qualified THX and ISF calibrator with over 17 years of experience. In today's video we're looking at the BenQ TK810 4K DLP projector. If you like our videos and want to see more of them while supporting our channel, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to click the notification bell to be informed every time we upload new video content. Also, don't forget to check out the projector forums at Europe's largest AV community on AV Forums to see what owners of this BenQ think about it after normal use in their own homes. The BenQ TK810 is a new entry-level home cinema 4K single-chip DLP projector from the manufacturer. It uses the latest DMD chip from Texas Instruments, and this implements a quadruple flash that tricks the eye into seeing 8.3 million pixels on the screen. The chip itself is actually 1920 by 1080 in resolution. However, using this technique, it can give you a pseudo 4K image on screen. This means that the TK810 can achieve a 4K-like image for significantly less cost than a native 4K projector. The TK810 is designed to be used in a normal living room with some ambient light or walls and ceilings that are a light colour. It aims to produce an image that can still be viewed in such rooms without too much image washout. However, it should be noted that like all DLP projectors at this price point, the black levels are raised and it's probably not suitable for use in a Batcave dedicated cinema room. The BenQ TK810 is provided with a wireless transmitter which allows it to use screen mirroring on Apple and Android devices. There's also an app store with a number of video on demand applications, as well as a USB 3.0 media player port on the rear of the projector for adding your own stored content playback through the projector. There is also ARC compatibility to feed audio back to your AV receiver, or you can use the built-in stereo speakers. As with all BenQ DLP projectors, you can also view 3D films with a suitable 3D Blu-ray player attached and the optional glasses, which are not provided. 3D playback is at the native 1080 resolution and not scaled to 4K. At just £1,159 at the time of this review in April 2020, can the TK810 produce a good enough image for film enthusiasts for home cinema use? Let's find out. There is no doubt that the TK810 is built to a price point and is intended to be used as a multimedia device capable of playing 4K Blu-rays, 3D films, stored media and video on demand services in a normal living room environment. As such, the design follows a well-used chassis layout with the lens positioned to the right hand side of the black coloured front plate. The hot air gas exhaust is positioned on the left side of the chassis, and there is a BenQ logo on the left of the front plate, and above the lens on the top is a sliding door which uncovers the focus and zoom controls on the lens. To the rear of this sliding door are menu controls for use if you misplace the remote control. The build quality is good for a projector that is designed to be portable and is constructed from hard plastics. There are 2 feet to the rear and 1 to the front for table positioning, and you can also ceiling mount the TK810, and around the back we have the speakers and the connections. Connections wise, from left to right we have a 12V trigger, RS232C and mini USB service and USB 3.0 media player ports. There are 2 HDMI 2.0 ports with HDCP 2.2 compatibility, and they will accept 4K 60p HDR signals. There's also a USB power port, optical digital and a 3.5mm audio output. The power socket is positioned below the connections and the speakers to either side of these. The supplied remote control is a small plastic affair that feels light and slightly flimsy, but that's to be expected at the price point. It does, however, work fine, and the buttons and keys are intuitively laid out and easy to reach with one thumb press while held in one hand. There is no backlight, which is a shame for a remote which is to be used with a projector in the dark. Looking at the grayscale, we can see that the tracking is not overly bad, but the lamp on the BenQ has a distinct red hue in the blacks, as it's not capable of producing any deep black at all. However, apart from a rise of green on the bright end of the scale, our delta E errors are under 3, which is just under the visible threshold, and this is impressive for an out-of-the-box preset on such a cost-effective projector. We have a slight issue at 90% stimulus, where it hits delta E3 and gamma is dipping to a brighter look at this point, but this is a small blip which is not visible in any content. Overall, it is impressive. The Rec 709 HD colour gamut is not quite as accurate out of the box. We have slight oversaturation at the 100% stimulus points for red, yellow, green and magenta, with slight hue errors also at these points. However, getting a DLP projector at this price point to even get close to covering Rec 709 is an achievement, and if you look at the saturation points that actually have an impact on image quality, so 75% and below, we have less of an issue with these points out of the box and should be able to correct them with the colour management system CMS tools provided with the projector. But again, for an out-of-the-box preset on a budget DLP projector, the results are impressive, if not entirely accurate. Moving to the calibrated results, it's nice to see controls that are first of all provided on a budget projector, but secondly that work properly. Looking at the grayscale first, we were able to get tracking much closer to perfect at most adjustable points without using too many of the inputs. Delta E errors were all under the visible threshold of 3, and gamma also tracked well at our 2.2 point. There's just not enough adjustments to get results any more accurate than we have here, and the slight redness in the deepest blacks is an issue with the performance of this projector with the black levels and the bulb's output. Using the included CMS with some care, we were able to correct these 75% stimulus and below saturation tracking points to be more accurate to the standards. This did require some balance of hue and saturation, as well as brightness of the colour points. We're also dealing with an RGBW colour wheel system, so it's never going to measure perfectly, but we ended up with delta E errors under 2, which is well below the visible threshold of 3, with no issues with TV and film content we watched as a result of us using the CMS. Okay, so as you should be aware, given the price point and that this is an entry-level DLP, this is not an HDR projector. It's a budget DLP with an average peak brightness of 110 nits and a measured black level of 0.253. It has no dynamic range to play back HDR content with any specular highlights or deep blacks with visible shadow details. It is HDR compatible only in that it will take such sources and display them within the capabilities of the projector. Given the lack of dynamic range and contrast, the TK810 still implements a tone map for HDR content, as you can see here in the PQ EOTF chart, but this does not mean it will display anything in HDR, it's incapable of doing that. Colour is also well below any wide colour gamut performance as seen in our P3 within 2020 measurements. A budget DLP like this is just not capable of producing a wide colour gamut as we see within the results. It is basically tracking just slightly wider than Rec 709. We measured BT 2020 at 58% XY and 62% UV, with P3 tracking 81% XY and 85% UV. We set up the BenQ TK810 in our Batcave testing room using a portable stand positioned 10 feet 8 inches from our 120-inch Screen Excellence 2.39:1 in lighter 4K screen. This means that for a 16:9 ratio we had a 94-inch diagonal image. We took all measurements directly from this screen, with brightness clocking in at 850 lumens in calibrated user mode and a contrast of 437:1. Black levels are mediocre, as you can see from our measurements, and indeed black bars on scope content within the 16:9 image area are raised to the same dark grey within the content, with shadow details crushed away. We're not surprised with this raised black level on such a budget DLP projector and the lack of shadow details as a result. Some dark scenes within movie content become almost unwatchable given the complete lack of contrast. So this is not a projector designed to be used in a Batcave dedicated cinema room. Because of the raised black floor, it is far better suited to brighter normal living room spaces with some ambient light or light coloured walls and ceilings. Give the TK810 a bright and colourful 16:9 image to display and it can look very impressive in such surroundings. This is a multimedia machine and it's designed to use screen sharing from your mobile devices for watching YouTube clips on a white wall in your living room. It's designed to be used as a portable gaming machine where you can take it around to your mates and game on a big screen or on a big white wall, although input lag is still high at 84 milliseconds from a Leo Bodmer tester. 24 frames per second playback is also good, but we did notice a light judder now and again with some pans. Image sharpness is also impressive, with nicely scaled images that only now and again look a little soft. But this is much more preferable to added edge enhancement, which is thankfully not seen with scaled content. Sharpness and uniformity of sharpness from the lens is decent for a budget projector, but the edges are a tad softer than the centre of the screen on this sample. However, we doubt you would notice that from normal viewing distances. While it may lack contrast performance and dynamic range, the TK810 is a bright and colourful projector that can display an image that will withstand use with ambient light. When fed content that is bright and colourful, it excels with a nice image that will look good gaming or watching animation on 16:9 ratio screens. Our main disappointment is with scope content lacking real blacks and contrast. Saying that, it's only really with dark scenes where things can become murky and grey and you're unable to see what's happening in the shadows. With brighter scenes within films, it can look decent with the lights on. It stands up with brightness and colours, and HDR content looks identical to SDR in terms of dynamics and colour performance, with no HDR to speak of. But then again, we never really expected it to look any different given the price point and the intended use of this DLP projector. For those looking for a projector to use for critical home cinema use in a Batcave environment, this is not the model for you. It has mediocre black levels and crushed shadow detail with poor contrast and dynamic range for such use. It's not an HDR projector when it comes to image quality, it just doesn't have the means to produce an image anywhere close to HDR, but it is HDR compatible, so you can feed it a 4K UHD source and it will play it back, just not in HDR or wide colour. However, this is not what the BenQ TK810 was designed to do. This is a projector for those who want a multimedia experience in a normal living room with light coloured walls and ambient light present. In such environments, the raised black floor is less of an issue, and the bright and colourful images the TK810 can throw are more suited to this use. It's really for those who want to screen mirror the mobile devices and show YouTube or TikTok clips or game with your mates from a console. 3D playback is also good, and you can get away with watching films in the living room with the TK810, just be prepared to miss some of the details in the darker scenes where the contrast is poor. There's also frame interpolation for use with football or other fast moving sports viewing, well, after the lockdown is over for live sport anyway. Overall, the BenQ TK810 does what it claims in the majority of use cases and is a very good all-round bright and vivid DLP projector for use in bright environments with today's varied viewing habits. With the right content and in the right surroundings, the BenQ TK810 is capable of producing bright and colourful images that will be acceptable for use in a multi-purpose role for those not looking for critical movie or home cinema performance. As such, it does what it sets out to do, and if this projector fits your requirements, we can recommend it for those uses.